Where are we on these cases?
Well, Your Honor, that was, documents Miss Gordon Lehman might have sent to the court.
You sent us something, Miss Gordon Lehman?
I did not send anything to the court. No, Your Honor.
So it is essentially a timeline showing a continuity of rental obligations because there was never a gap in the certificate of compliance. And she made a handy.
So in their building, there was never a gap in the certificate of compliance where these two reside, or all
Correct.
three.
Correct, Your Honor. And so we provided a chart to sister counsel just to kind of give some clarity. If the court did have questions after it was resolved, whether or not any monies were owed, and if the question of whether or not there was a gap, we were able to provide some substantive information on that. But I've reviewed all the court orders regarding the issuance of the COCs and the TCOCs. And if Your Honor would like, I can run through just the very quick timing of it so you kind of have an idea.
Yes.
So the court in the circuit court case entered an order requiring the issuance of TCOCs on October 3rd, 2025 for 720 Green and 721 West Clark. And the city physically issued those TCOCs 3 days later on October 6th. Notably, the orders that the court entered required that the rental obligation be reinstated effective immediately. From that point, there was discussions with the city to extend TCOC timings in November 30th, 2025. Those TCOCs were extended to December 1st, 2025. And then from that point to the next hearing we had with the court was December 29th, 2025. And the court began ordering that the clients could begin putting people in those buildings and continue to put people in those buildings. So at all times, the court was allowing folks to be moved into those buildings. There were orders being entered by the court expressly permitting that occupancy could be allowed in those buildings. And that was starting in Arbor 1 in December of 2025. In February 4, 2026, that is when the court entered a similar order allowing occupancy to continue in Arbor West. Those two orders in December and February were the vacate orders that the court entered. So essentially, that's when she ordered all of those buildings to be vacated. And in those same orders, she expressly permitted people can leave the property or they can move to these buildings. Because she was allowing occupancy, everything was, running as normal in those buildings. And then finally, February 19th, 2026 is when the final COCs were issued, both for 720 Green, 721 West Clark. And at that point, we got a third COC for 721, 723 Green. That building never had a TCOC. It was always just the final COC that was entered. And then from that point on, February 19th, when they were issued, COCs have been in place in all three buildings. I'm not sure the timing upon which the claims of non-payment are. I can let sister counsel maybe establish that more, but all of our records and orders from the court have an ongoing rental obligation since October 3rd, 2025 for 720 Green, 721 West Clark, and then from February 19th, 2026 for 721 and 723 Green.
Okay. Give me that date again. Continuing rental obligations from
October 3rd, 2025 would be the start for 720 Green and 721 West Clark. And then for 721/723 Green, it would have been February 19th, 2026.
Got it. So that's probably within where our problem, thank you, counsel, where our problem may be. On the complaint, and if I just take Ms. Samson's case, rent is being charged. Her rent was paid through February 28, 2025. She's at 6,000. But does that rental obligation go prior to October?
So. I need to look, the ledgers, this ledger, stamp begins in April, but are these?
In April of,
So the balance starts April 1st at 11:48.
11,
48.
$1,148.
That's the point. So then there's, I didn't know what these charges were right on it. $40 water, gas 30, trash 10, big tickets. So it's 11:48 plus, basically it adds up to $1,281.
So the monies that are on this complaint are only from the time Ram took over? Is that right?
Well, that's what I was calling. We don't know what it is. Because this is small.
I have the Beal one and then I have theirs. I also would be wondering if, I know there was supposedly an agreement to Bill and some of the residents where they, that's the other thing.
Right, that's part of the other problem. Part of the other problem is Beal said they do something, but then you guys take over. And I don't think you guys knew anything about what Beal had agreed with them.
So. The ledger from Beal. It's like it begins October, begins October 2025, the amount of 1,231. So she had been, according to the ledger, being charged $1,231, and then she got a credit of $8,617 on October 6th. Just over rent. They had been accumulating rent, and then they wiped it clean starting October 1st. It's just over rent beginning October 1st.
So this figure that you have her owing, we'll just use hers right now. Is that amount the amount that's accumulated since Ram took over
No, this begins in October
of,
2025.
but your understanding was what?
Oh, $7,000 in, that's my first time hearing it, I got a credit. What did it credit for what?
You were supposed to get $7,000, basically a credit, but on,
That I paid,
pardon?
from the rent that I was paying. Non-compliant. Cause I paid from September to February. And that's when they had me to renew my lease. While
September to February of
2014.
20, started
2024,
24.
all the way up to February.
Gotcha.
When they had me to renew a lease, Arbor One did, I kept that in my purse.
I got you. I got you. Yeah. So I think, and I bet you I'm gonna hear the same thing from Mr. Brown going, Mr. Goings and Miss Brown. I think one thing that you're gonna be stuck with is this. Outside of the court proceedings. Because I found this on some other cases. Outside of the court proceedings. Beal made an agreement with these folks. And that was an agreement for what they paid when these units may have not been in compliance. Problem is, I believe those agreements were probably made. Nobody knew. It probably was not written down. But I don't know that under, I realize these are rental situations, but these are going to be a little bit different. What's clear to me is these folks relied upon that.
Well, I guess I'm trying to understand. So according to the timeline, there was always a certificate of compliance beginning in October 2025. That's when the rent began. So is it a? They,
No, there's a period before that period that she's paying rent. That they're giving credit, that,
Credit, I didn't know about a credit.
she was given over $8,000 credit
How?
to the ledger. So all that rent that was accumulating every month was.
yeah, but if you, is that a credit or did she pay it?
I think it was like my.
See, you may be calling it a credit. We get to the same number, but you may be calling it a credit. What shows up as a credit is actually her payment. It's not that she's getting a credit. Well, she's getting a credit, if you want to look at it that way. But the credit is what she's paying.
Well, I'm not understanding. So she.
Well, it's really simple. She pays for a period she shouldn't be paying for. Phil comes along and says, I'm not going to give you your money back, but I'm going to give you a credit. Well,
It's yeah.
it's going to be the 7,000 or whatever that you don't have to pay. Either we're going to pay it to you or it's going to come, but you don't have to pay it.
It's just they weren't owed rent during that time period. So I think I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and so I think what was happening is my suspicion is that Bill was making those deals, telling these people that, but then at some point, Bill's not there. And now here they are, trying to rely upon what Bill had told them, or trying to have the benefit of that deal that Bill made with them come forth.
So I'm on the ledger. I'm not showing any payments. This is the deal ledger, not the fair ledger. The most recent payment, I'm the same that was 2025. So essentially there was no rent due. They look like a credit, but there's no, because there was no rent that should have been paid in March 2025 through September 20.
So what?
So the last payment from Ms. Samson was February 2025, and then there were no payments. There's been no payments since then, but nothing was due between March 2025 and September 2025. They were charged, and then they were reversed.
Well, Mr. Goings, because you have the same type of situation, and so does Ms. Brown. So, quite frankly, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to set these for, I now have a handle on what's here. I'm going to set these for final settlement conference. And then if we have to have a trial on the issue, we'll have a trial on the issue. And then I'll just listen to everybody and I'll make my decision, because I'm just going to let plaintiff know whether right or wrong from a calculation standpoint. There were a number of tenants where certain things were said and done and representations made to them. And may or may not know about it, but then I'm gonna hear testimony from them as to what that deal was and then that, and I get one, you know, it might have to be an agreement in writing, but certainly there can be other theories of representation and their reliances on those representations.
So. Just so that I can have a better understanding, what time period are the defendants saying that Beal told them there wasn't going to be a credit? What is the same time period? There was no certificate of compliance? Was it stuck from October to now?
See, hold on. You keep saying, and I just don't want to get language mixed up. You keep saying credit. That's not how it was told. How it's told is they were supposed to get money
Cash.
and then move. Oh, yeah.
Well, that, the only, I've looked through first, so the court's aware, yeah, some of them do.
Go ahead, Ms. Gordon.
I'm trying to get the timing of all this as well. And so I'm not sure if these tenants are suggesting that they were supposed to get like move out agreement money. Because from the statement of, I'm sorry, the female defendant, what was
Miss
the last
Sampson.
name? Miss Samson, sorry. It sounds like the timeline, she may be saying that she would be getting money from the time that there was no COCs and the money that was paid. That sounds like move out agreement type scenario. And so there very likely would have been communications between the property management team and tenants saying you can submit a move out agreement and receive your money back for the rent you paid if you leave the property and you get your payments. Those communications certainly occurred. That was court ordered items that were coming from the court. But they had to submit an MOA and then there were processes that had to go through it. And they actually had to pay rent. So is Ms. Samson saying that she paid rent sometime between September of 24 and before the certificate of compliance were in place, and that she submitted an MOA and was expecting that money? Is that what she's saying?
I don't, that's not what she's saying.
Okay, because that's the only
Okay, I wasn't offered that.
Right.
Wasn't offered the move out package or special, because I would have moved. Because they were saying that if they owed me money, it was half of that back to move, and I'm like, why? Why don't y'all just fix this so I can pay, and y'all keep the money if that's what y'all saying y'all want to do, but nobody even told me that. We never discussed it.
No, I got you.
I renewed the lease. Why would they owe money?
I'm just gonna, folks, I'm gonna put this on a track toward trial. I'm just gonna listen to everybody and then I'm gonna make my call on it. I mean, I get that there were not finding this, but I am going to suspect that the agreements that are laid out in the circuit court before Judge Kunke are as counsel has indicated. But I am also of a belief that there were things said to tenants that were inconsistent with what was happening there. And I don't know where then from the court's perspective, where that should fall. So I'm gonna set final settlement conference. What's that date we have? July 14th, 2026, 9 a.m. We'll be able to sort of hammer that out, and from there I'll set trials on these men. Okay,
And I do know that there was another one union.
Pardon?
The union that they had for all of this was one.
I know.
Have all the court documents and all of that for letters.
Right, but and I understand all of that. The problem The problem isn't what anybody did in the other court. Or what anybody did is where there was a union of the tenants coming forth and doing whatever. None of that, in my mind, is a part of a problem. It's, which is where I see this going, is what do I do? What does this court do with what may be stray representations outside of those other agreements? Do they have no force and effect because they were the court proceedings in the union? You should have been part of that, or you should have known, or should they be enforced either on a legal basis or certainly on an equitable basis? And I don't know. But certainly it's something that should be looked at. All right, so I'll set a final settlement conference on that date. All of those proceedings are in person. We'll go through, we'll narrow precisely what the issues are. And then if necessary, we'll proceed forth and set it for trial. All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you,
Ms. Gordon,
Judge Simpson.
Ms. Gordon Lehman, you tried your best to just get rid of me and not have to see me, but
Always
know,
a pleasure.
just-
I will be there on the 14th, Your Honor.
all right. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
All right, thank you. That's it, Block. Court is standing in recess.
All rise.